it is difficult to be able to see a deceptive practice or a bully that has been entrenched from the trenches itself. Once you're already in there with it, it's difficult to differentiate and to really see the magnitude of the dysfunction until you get away from it. And that's hard to do if you're going to then stay part of the organization and try to overcome it. But another way to do this is to say, well, what would it look like if I were just to walk in someplace and try to deceive people? What types of techniques do people use to become deceptive to this extent that it gets entrenched into the organization and even becomes wicked? And then I think it will make sense what some of these techniques are, and then hopefully you'll be able to recognize these as they actually play out in the organization. The goals of a deceiver are to keep the agenda hidden. It's about control, control, control. It doesn't matter why the control needs to be there. It's important that we stay clear of that, because that's going to pull us into the control. They want to be clear of accountability. They want to have responsibility, but they want the accountability to be clearly not theirs. And most importantly, they never ever want all the facts to come out as the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Deceivers count on people being polite. They count on fear in the organization, and they count on the fact that if this looks like a conspiracy theory, people are not going to overturn it. If there is a simple lie or two, that's pretty easy to understand, to see, and to challenge. But if the deception runs deep, where you have lies stacked upon lies that are fundamental things, they rely on the fact of the politeness and the fear that no one is going to actually put all the pieces together and then expose the conspiracy theory for what it is. Interesting thing that bullies universally like to do is have the perception that the organization is just one step away from sheer chaos. It's a dual message where they are saying the organization is extremely well managed, but yet it's on the brink of collapse. And the only thing keeping that tension in place is the bully. No one wants to have the organization collapse and go into sheer chaos, so that fear keeps people away from even challenging or talking about it, because heaven forbid the bully should be offended and should walk out. It would leave the organization completely crippled. At least that's the illusion. Factual omissions. This is where you can't prove the absence of something. You can't prove a negative. So how do you, 6 months or a year later, discover that something was said about a project you're working on, or something where a critical fact was left out and you were not aware of it? It makes it very difficult to go back and rewind time and see how that all dominoed throughout other circumstances and other decisions. It's a very difficult thing to do, and then what makes it particularly insidiously cruel is that I think after that truth does come out, good and well-intentioned people tend to say, that you should have picked up on that. And if you had just clarified that, this would have been simpler. So basically they're blaming the victim here for not having the foresight to be able to be a Monday morning quarterback. They should have been able to detect the absence of something that they didn't know about. Bullies love to be the information hub. They like to have things filtered. They like to have things spinned. They like to choose the audience. They like to fragment things. They like to recombine things. Again, it's all about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You don't want all three of those to all be in one place at one time with the same audience. That would be equivalent to showing your hand. That would be having the facts come out, which would be exposure. When all facts are exhausted, deceivers resort to things like weasel words, appealing to an authority, rules of thumb, arbitrary standards, or societal customs. Serial bullies and entrenched bullying becomes opportunistic. In other words, it's like playing a hand of cards where you gather your cards and you abide your time and you wait to play them. So you stack your deck, you get your facts in order, you build a case, and then when the opportunity arises, when the victim or the target is at a vulnerable spot, then they're ready to play their hand. That typically takes place either as just a slam dunk where you come in and just usurp something, you just take it, and people tend to be polite, so they just let them take it, or they come in as the rescuer or the reluctant helper, come in and say that they're gonna step up to the plate and and take over on this. But it's interesting that if you look at it, it's very thinly veiled, because one is it takes place at the precise time when the target, when the victim is for whatever reason either absent or having a bad day, or it's some type of vulnerability that is atypical of what they normally do. So that stands out like a sore thumb. And then the second part is that all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, they have everything they need to do that rescue. I don't walk around with an arsenal of things where I could pick up some type of activity unless I think I'm going to be doing it. It just seems a little too opportunistic. If they were just simply there and they were prepared, for example, to help without the idea of coming in and playing their hand to take over or to rescue or to slam dunk something, see if that's lined up so that it complements the existing process. And I can virtually guarantee it will not. It will be the other direction. Bullies love to poison the well. In other words, where we get our information from. It has to be laced with lies. It has to be poisoned, so that when people go to the trough of truth, of information, they are unaware that they are being deceived.